The Necrons did not defeat death. They made it irrelevant. And in doing so, they removed everything that made a life worth preserving. They do not age, they do not weaken, they do not die. And yet, they are not alive. There was a time they were something else, not machines, not immortal. But that time does not matter anymore, because what they chose cannot be undone. The Necrontyr were born dying. Not metaphorically, not philosophically, physically. Their bodies failed quickly, their lives ended early. Every achievement cut short. Every empire built under the certainty of collapse. They did not fear war. They feared time. And time was undefeated. Until they found something that was not, something older than themselves, something that did not decay, something that offered them a way out. And that is where the mistake was made. They found it in something older than themselves, something vast, something that did not decay. The Catan. Entities of living star stuff. Beings that existed beyond the limits the Necrontyr could not escape. They did not offer guidance. They did not offer partnership. They offered transformation. An end to weakness, an end to death, an end to time as a limiting force. And the Necrontyr accepted, not because they were deceived, but because the alternative was extinction. Biotransference was not evolution. It was substitution. Bodies were stripped away, consciousness was transferred, form was replaced with function. What emerged were not improved Necrontyr. They were Necrons, immortal, indestructible, unchanging. But something did not survive the process. Not memory, not awareness. Something more fundamental. The self. What remained could think, it could act, it could remember, but it could not be what it once was. Immortality is often imagined as continuity. For the Necrons, it was interruption. They did not extend life. They replaced it with persistence. No aging, no decay, no death, but also no growth, no change, no recovery of what was lost. In the 41st millennium, every myth hides a mechanism. The myth is that the Necrons achieved immortality. The mechanism is that they removed the conditions that made life meaningful and replaced them with permanence. With their transformation complete, the Necrons did not retreat. they expanded. They turned their new existence outward, against the old ones, against the galaxy itself. The war in heaven was not a single conflict. It was escalation, a pressure applied across a galaxy that could not withstand it. The old ones did not stand without answer. They did not meet the Necrons with armies alone. They created species designed for survival, for resistance, for war. The Eldari endured where the Necrontyr could not. Long-lived, controlled, unbroken by time, where the Necrons chose replacement. The Eldari mastered restraint. But endurance was not enough, because the Necrons did not weaken, they did not fracture, they did not stop. Many who resisted them are no longer remembered. The Korg, the Jokero, others lost entirely. They were not defeated slowly. They were erased. And as the war continued, resistance did not collapse all at once. It diminished, it fragmented, it disappeared, until what remained was dominated by a single force. And at the center of it, the Necrons. And when the war no longer had anything left to resist, it did not end in triumph. It ended in absence. There were no rivals left to defeat, no equals left to challenge them. Only a galaxy that had been reduced to something quieter, something diminished. This was not victory, as it is understood by mortal species. There was no celebration, no expansion left to pursue, no purpose that required continuation, because the Necrons had not simply defeated their enemies. They removed the conditions that made opposition possible. And in doing so, they had removed something else. Tension, conflict, meaning. What remained was not conquest. It was completion. And completion is not sustainable, because a system that has nothing left to overcome has nothing left to do. It was at this point that the flaw became visible, not in their enemies, in themselves. The Necrons do not experience time as other species do. They do not change. They do not age. They accumulate. Memory does not fade. It does not soften. It does not lose its edge. Every moment remains. Every loss, every decision, preserved. And without the capacity to feel, there is nothing to diminish what is remembered. A human forgets, an Eldari reflects. The Necron retains. This is not continuity. This is accumulation without release. A past that cannot be escaped a present that cannot evolve, a future that cannot arrive, only persistence. And over spans of time that cannot be meaningfully measured, that persistence becomes something else. Not wisdom, not clarity, pressure. Even in systems designed to endure, some Necrons begin to fail. Not physically, but structurally. Their logic loops. Their purpose distorts. Their identity fractures. The destroyer cult does not seek conquest. It seeks elimination, not of enemies, of everything. Because when existence is reduced to function, the most efficient function is removal. The Flayer curse is not corruption in the traditional sense. It is inversion, an echo of what was lost, a simulation of hunger, of flesh, of life, a memory, trying to become something it no longer can. They wear skin. They mimic behavior. They attempt to reclaim something that no longer exists, and they fail because what was taken cannot be restored. They are not anomalies. They are consequences. Proof that even a system built to eliminate weakness cannot eliminate what it has removed. And yet, it does not stop there. Because some fractures do not remain contained. They do not degrade. They spread. There are patterns within the Necrons that do not resemble failure. They resemble intrusion, not of matter, not of force, but something that should not be able to reach them at all. Something that does not belong and yet persists. It does not command them. It does not control them, but it distorts. It echoes. It changes. And in systems that were designed to eliminate weakness, that should not be possible. The Necrons are often described as ancient, as patient, as inevitable. But that is not what defines them. What defines them is a decision. A moment where civilization chose to remove death and discovered that death was not the only thing it carried. They are not survivors because they endured. They are survivors because they replaced what they could not endure with something that no longer lives. You are listening to Cog, Eternal. The Necrons remain unchanging, unaging, unfinished. They achieved what every mortal civilization seeks, and in doing so, they became something that no longer needs to seek at all. Not alive, not dead, only persistent,